y'all, today I'm going to talk to you about slope, and if you have a piece of paper in front of you, go ahead, hit pause, get your notes set up. All right, you should be ready. Now, slope. What is slope? What is slope? Slope is the steepness of a line. Slope is the steepness of a line. How steep is that line? You'll be able to determine different slopes based on what the line looks like, how steep is it going, and we're going to talk about that in several videos. So, there are a few things we need to go over before we just jump right into slope. When I say the steepness of a line, anytime you're talking about steepness, you're going to be talking about the absolute value of the slope. Okay, well, where is the slope? Where is it found? You can find slope in tables, you can find slope on graphs, you can find slope in equations, you can find slope all over. But I want you right now to, let's write out one more definition, not really a definition, but a term, and let's write the proper form with this term. So we have a slope-intercept form. So go ahead and write that down. Slope-intercept form. All right, so slope-intercept form, what is that? That is the form that you need to write your linear equation in. Slope-intercept form is a way to represent your linear equation. So, y equals mx plus b. And we're going to talk about these different things, and then you'll see where your slope goes. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's label this formula, the different forms. Let's label it with what each item means. All right, so M is going, and help if I change colors. M is your slope. And B is your y-intercept. Okay, so if this is my slope, my M, I'm going to take the absolute value of that slope. So let's write a few equations real quick before we get into the different forms of slope. Let's look at the steepness of slope first. So if I have y equals 3x plus 2. All right, so my y-intercept is 2, and we're going to go over that in a different video on what do you mean by y-intercept? Where is that located on a graph? We'll go over that later. So my y-intercept is 2, my slope is 3, and then x is just a variable, and y is a variable. We will talk about those things in a separate video. So my slope is 3. That means the steepness of this linear equation is 3 every single time this line is growing by 3. All right, so let's get into the actual absolute value to find the steepness. If I have another linear equation, y equals 4x plus 2. Well, they're both starting at 2. One is growing by 3 every time. One equation is growing by 4 every time. So which one is steeper? Obviously 4 is steeper because it has the greater absolute value. 4 is bigger than 3. It is growing by 4 every time. That's going to have a steeper increase. Now, if you ever see negatives in your linear lines, so y equals negative 3x plus 2 and y equals negative 4x plus 2. All right, so you're going to take the absolute value of this line. If you're looking on a number line, you would know that negative 3 is bigger than negative 4 on a number line. But when we're talking about steepness, steepness is how steep that line is. How steep is that slope? So you're going to take the absolute value. So when we're talking about steepness, don't think about negatives. Just look at the absolute value of that number. So let's highlight which equations are the steepest. So in this first example, we've got 3x plus 2 and we have 4x plus 2. Which one is steeper? Our 4x plus 2. That is steeper. Now, looking at the second one, like I said, if you're looking at a number line, you're going to get these wrong because -3 is greater than -4, but it is not steeper. In order to be steeper, you take the absolute value. So let's go ahead and draw an arrow back up here and remind yourself the absolute value of the slope gives you your steepness. So if you ever have a question that says which linear equation is steeper, which slope is steeper, you're always going to look at absolute value. Okay, so those are a few helpful hints on slope. Now let's look at the 4 types of slope. So there are, let's go ahead and write this out. We'll have like a second little section of our notes on here. So 4 types of slope. All right, and let's go ahead and separate that off. The 4 different types of slope that we have. So, just for time's sake, let's go ahead and just sketch out quick little graphs. You don't have to worry about trying to make this something really proper. Let's just have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Can you see all of those? Yes, you can. Okay, so let's look at the first one. The 4 different types of slope. So our first type of slope that we're going to have is a positive slope. So go ahead and write positive down there. A positive slope. And anytime you have positive slope, your line is going to be going upward from left to right. You always read graphs from left to right. So upwards from left to right. If I were to get a pen and I were to trace this line from left to right, my pen is moving upward. So that is a positive slope. Okay, and let's go ahead and add that note over to the side because that is really important to make sure you always remember. You always read graphs from left to right. That is very important. You always read graphs from left to right. Like I said a while ago, just trace your pencil from the left side to the right side of the line. How is it going? It's going upward. Okay, so the first type of slope is our positive slope. Our next type of slope that we are going to have is a negative slope. So obviously if positive is moving upward left to right, negative is going to move downward from left to right. So negative is going to go down. And from left to right, that line is actually going to move downward. So if I were to trace this line with a different colored pen or with my finger on a test or on a quiz or on a paper or on an example, I'm going to trace it from left to right. It's moving downward. It is negative. The third type of slope that we're going to talk about is zero slope. Zero slope, meaning there's zero slope. There's no slope. A zero slope line is straight across. It's not increasing and it is not decreasing. It is doing neither one of those things. A zero slope goes straight across. It's going zero. It's going all the way across. And just to give you a helpful hint, an equation that would show a zero slope would look something like y equals a number. There's not an x in there because there's zero slope. You would not have a slope there. It would not have a mx. It would just have a y equals a number. We'll go over that in our graphing slope video in just a few minutes. Now, when we have a zero slope, it goes left to right, straight across. There's one more type of slope, and it is called undefined. Now, if a slope is undefined, you cannot figure out how steep it is. It's undefined. So a slope that is undefined is going to go straight up and down. No curve at all to it, straight up and down. And an undefined slope will have a linear equation looking like x equals a number. And we'll go over that, like I said, in our graphing slope video. So let's recap. Slope is the steepness of a line. And to find steepness, you always look at the absolute value of the slope. Well, what is slope? It's the m in your equation. So y equals mx plus b. Our slope is our m, b is our y-intercept. These are some examples. If I were looking at y equals 3x plus 2 and y equals 4x plus 2, 4x has a higher slope. It has a steeper slope because the number is steeper. Negative 3x plus 2 and negative 4x plus 2. Anytime you have negative slopes, you look at the absolute value. The absolute value of that number. Do not look at the negatives when you're talking about steepness. Let's recap the 4 types of slope. Our 4 different types of slope. We have a positive slope. From left to right, it's moving upward. We have a negative slope. From left to right, it's moving downward. We have a zero slope. It is not moving up or moving down. It is going straight across from left to right. And we have an undefined slope. It is not moving left, right, up, down, curved. It is just a straight line that is vertical up and down. I hope this helps. I hope y'all have a great day.